taking the time out to come and be part of this exciting conversation about our shared future. Now, please write and tell us what you make of the event today. But for now, on with the show.
And welcome to TEDx WUSTL 2013 Cultivate the Intellect. Our second to last speaker tonight is another WashU alumnus, and rather than hearing me continue to ramble on, I'd like to show a video to introduce Michael Carter.
The state took me and my siblings away from my mom when I was 14. Now we live with our grandparents. I don't want to be faced with the limits that my mom faced, and that's why I want to go to college. My grandparents only went to grade school. There was nobody at home that could help me figure out how I could reach my dream.
Applying to college can be very bewildering. There's over 400,000 low-income students every year who graduate qualified to go to a four-year college, and they just don't go. My name is Michael Carter, and I help qualified underserved students apply to, pay for, and stay in college.
Who needs to finish their FAFSA?
We bring college student mentors to high schools to help students through the entire process.
How many more apps do you have to do? None? You're done? That's pretty good.
It's completely free. Students pick their mentor and they meet weekly until they're accepted into college.
I never really thought of myself as the greatest student. Like, college was not on my mind.
All the anatomy.
Now I'm a sophomore at San Jose State University. My full tuition is covered, and I'm mentoring a high school student. I'm proof that Strive for College works.
Strive, 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 everybody!
Together, we are going to solve this problem.
So, thanks everybody. Like the video said, I'm Michael Carter, class of 2010 here at WashU. Really excited to be back for the first time since I graduated. Kind of feel a little old. So what I want to talk to you about today, what I titled my talk is Learning to Strive, a quest for fulfillment found in social change and entrepreneurship. This is a very personal story, but I think there's a lot of lessons as fellow WashU students that you can apply to your personal journey for fulfillment. And I'm thrilled to go after Dean Jill because I think it's a great segue. So my personal journey starts with my grandma, Clara, and my grandpa, Frank. They grew up in East Chicago, Indiana. They were Mexican immigrants, the first in their families to even graduate high school. My grandma got straight A's, but didn't think she could go anywhere for college because they didn't have the money. And at that time, there wasn't really financial aid. They ended up getting married, had my mom, and worked 2 jobs each to save enough money to send her to college. She ended up graduating from DePaul University in Chicago, and it changed our family's trajectory, frankly, forever. So much so that when I was a young guy, well, I'm still young, I'd like to think, but in grammar school, I told my grandpa at one point, you know, Grandpa, everybody has an equal opportunity. And he said, you're a mensa, which in moron means Spanish. Or sorry, which is good. Clearly. All right. Now that now we've broken the ice. You know, it wasn't until I actually transferred from a private to a public high school my junior year. It was the first public school I'd ever gone to, and we had one counselor for every 800 students. And I had a lot of friends in honors and AP courses who had great GPAs, great SAT scores, and didn't think they could go anywhere for college simply because nobody told them they could. And so it was then that I realized that my grandpa was right, maybe I was kind of a menso, and that there was a clear divide between what some students had and other students didn't. Being a total geek, part of how I ended up at WashU maybe, sorry. You know, I loved applying to college. I thought it was so much fun. You're laughing, so I'm guessing a lot of you are much cooler than I am. So I loved it. I thought it was a blast. I applied to 24 schools. I had a rolling file cabinet. My father said, "That's not my son. That's all dad's kid." He had only applied to one school when he went. And anyway, as I was researching, when I applied in 2005, 2006, it was when all of the top schools had made policies where if your family made 60 grand or less a year, you'd go for free, no loans. And so I didn't qualify for that, but a bunch of my friends did, and so I told them about it, and quite a few ended up getting into some really great schools. I got really lucky and got a merit scholarship to WashU through something called the Anika Rodriguez Scholars Program, which some of you might know about. And it was through that program that I emailed the scholarship director, Julia Macias, the summer before my freshman year, and said, "Hey, I have this idea. What if we go into low-income high school and college counsel kids? Who better to do it than us? We've just been through the process ourselves, and I assume we're pretty good at it since you just admitted us." And she said, "Okay, let's do it." And so Strive for College was born. It started out really small scale, just grassroots. There was a small group of us who would go to a high school in North St. Louis and college counsel students through every facet of the application process. It was a small school that had been unaccredited by the state, so you only had 30 kids per grade. About every student had the option to flee the district, and most did. That year, as we were working with juniors, out of the seniors, only 1 out of 30 went to four-year colleges. The next year, out of the juniors we had worked with, 24 out of 27 ended up going to four-year colleges. So at first we were all like, "Oh, we're the new Mother Teresa's, look at this, we're so great, this is so awesome. I feel like a miracle has occurred thanks to me." And then I quickly couldn't sleep at night thinking how many of the 29 the year before had actually earned the right to go to college, and simply nobody told them they could. Nobody helped them apply. You can see another picture of some of our first group. I'm way in the back, as I should be. And so, you know, as I was digging through the national data, as we established, I'm a geek, so I like data. So I'm digging through the national data to say, is this a one-off problem? Is there something bigger here? Well, Congress's Committee on Higher Ed found that there's 400,000 low-income high school seniors every year who are qualified to go to a four-year college, and they just don't go. Prior to Strive coming into my life, I grew up in Silicon Valley. I thought I was going to do venture capital. I'd interned for a VC firm on Sand Hill Road, where all the VC firms are. And I tend to think of things in terms of return on investment. And so I was like, God, like there's no higher return on investment than getting a great student who's qualified to go to college. They've overcome so many obstacles in a school system that is not designed usually for them to succeed in the first place. And you're telling me they're not going, which means all the data shows that they're no better off than the student who didn't do well in high school. If they didn't go, if they don't go to college, the odds they make any more than the student who got D's and F's in high school is actually very low. So I was obsessed. And so this became all I talked about, all the time. And so if you were my friend, you either got involved or you stopped talking to me. And both happened. Speed you up to where we are today. This year, we're going to be at 20 universities all across the country where we have chapters of college students working in 22 high schools around the country. We're in 9 states, helping low-income high school students through the college application financial aid process. We'll be serving 900 students this year. The young lady you saw in the video at the end, Shauna Brancato, she was a foster youth, went through our program, and now she is a Strive mentor herself, right, paying it forward. And so we're trying to do more and more of that. This program's changed my life. I certainly find it more rewarding than anything I've ever done in my life. There was no greater feeling in my life than when the first student I helped got into college. We'd gotten off to a little bit of a rough start. Halfway through my first semester mentoring her, she said something along the lines of, "Darn, Michael, if you can go to college, I can too." And I was like, I don't know how to take that. I'm going to take that as a compliment and not what I think it is. But in all seriousness, right, I hope what she was saying is that it seems so much more real to her that someone only a year or two older than her, right, had just gone through this mysterious, painful process, right, and that, you know, it was possible for her too. And so when she called me saying she got into her first college, I cried. I was so excited. And she said, "You helped change my life," and I was crying, and I'm like, I think I really did help change your life. And it was just a phenomenal moment, right? Because you had a year of volunteering, and at the end of this year, you had a tangible result, right? In the student getting into college. You know, we've gotten a lot of support now, culminating with, we were just on CNN Heroes last week. And so I feel so blessed that I found sort of my calling so early in life. But part of what I wanted to talk to you all about today is sort of some of the pain points I learned along the way. And as you think about your experience here at WashU, where you have tremendous resources, you know, think about how you want to make your experience work, and how I think really you have 4 years in which to explore and hopefully find something that fulfills you to do once you graduate. So a few lessons I've learned. 1 is greater than 1 million, which is not good math. Clearly I was a history major. So what I mean by this is, in high school, I was in like 20 clubs and was, you know, Club VP or whatever, a bunch of them. And when I got to college, my first year, I did a bunch of things, including starting the Strive model. And what I quickly realized is that if I wanted to actually grow Strive and make it a movement, as friends started calling saying, "Hey, we want to start chapters at our schools," what I learned was that I had to focus, right? So I had to pick what I was passionate about and obsess over it and do it really, really, really well. Better to be insanely great at one thing than fairly okay at a million, right? And for you all, you know, I would encourage the same thing. Explore the first couple of years, but then really hone in on, these are the things I super care about, right? And I really want to work on. Because it's really, really good to focus, and once you focus, you'll learn if it's truly your passion. I learned Strive was my passion because I started to believe that no meant one step closer to a yes. I've put an asterisk that that's only sometimes true. So I got 1,000 no's when I started fundraising to hire our first full-time employee when I was a junior in college. I got over 1,000 no's from people when I asked for money before one said yes. Again, I cried quite a few times. I was like, oh my God, they hate me, right? And it didn't help that the fundraising was going on in 2009 in the heat of the economic recession. So my timing was impeccable. But what you learn, right, when you get a ton of no's, you learn your true resolve for the idea, right? If you're not super into something and you get a bunch of no's, you'll know you're not into it if you're then willing to let it go. If you're insanely obsessed even though 1,000 people just told you that is a dumb idea, go away, right? you know that you really want to work on this. And so what I would say to you all, and what I've learned, is that the greatest thing that's ever happened to me is having people say no and failing. Because it only makes you have greater resolve if you really believe in something to push forward. The last thing is Uncle Ben in Spider-Man was right when he told Peter Parker, with great privilege comes great responsibility. He's really right. You have huge resources at WashU. There are incredibly successful alumni at WashU, right? And you can use those resources solely for you, and that's fine, right? You can use it to go get a great job, and that's great. You should. But you can also use the insanely great resources that a wonderful place like WashU or other great institutions have, and leverage those resources to help other people, right? Who might not be as fortunate as you or I am. And that was something that, again, had I not transferred from a private to a public high school, I wouldn't be here today doing this. Because growing up in a bubble, it truly didn't feel like, there was this inequity in education until I saw it firsthand. And so there's tons of great volunteer options at WashU. Plug for Strive for College, which is still here. Going out into the community and helping others and seeing how other people struggle, I think is the greatest way to start to figure out how you can use the great privilege you have by being a WashU student to help other people. So I want to close talking with you about why I feel personally fulfilled to be doing Strive, and it's because of these two. So these are my grandparents. My grandma now has Alzheimer's real bad. My grandpa has pulmonary fibrosis. They're not doing great health-wise now. But they've been married 65 years. They never went to college, right? Lived a pretty simple life. But they have great love for each other. And they had a dream for my mom to have a better future. And that inspires me. And that is why I do what I do every day. I want to create what they created for our family, for millions of other families just like ours. So think about why you do what you do every day, and what inspires you, and what's going to get you up in the morning feeling like, oh my God, I'm so lucky to be here today. I'm so excited to do what I'm doing. And I'm so privileged to be helping someone else in the process. So thanks very much. I'll look forward to hopefully talking to some of you after the talk. Thank you.